I'd like to call the March 17th, 2025 meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order and welcome all of you who are in the audience tonight. Good to see you. Also good to know that there are people out there watching on our live stream. Welcome to you as well. I did want to point out that Commissioner Stovall is attending tonight. He's just doing it virtually. So if we vote on something, you remind me to give him a minute to respond to that. I did want to call attention to our six board priorities, but I add one to it. But our six board priorities, they are educational funding, infrastructure, financial stewardship, land use, public safety, and our county employees. And as is customary, we will open with an invocation. I've asked Commissioner Godwin to lead us in that tonight, and then we'll follow that with the pledge led by Commissioner Stevens. So if you choose to do so, please stand for the invocation.
Let's pray. Father God, we're thankful for the blessings of this day, for the blessings of being in Johnston County. And we ask you to be with us tonight as we go about the business of the citizens of Johnston County. We ask for your wisdom, your guidance, your patience, and your love. Forgive us our shortcomings, for it's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. The first item on the agenda is approval or discussion of the agenda. Is there any items we need to adjust or discuss on the agenda?
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 There it is.
Got the first one down. All right, the agenda is approved. Next, we have the consent agenda. We have 4 items at this meeting. They are approval of our February 17th meeting minutes. The Health Department has an updated resolution in regard to the opioid settlement funds plan update. We have an appointment to the Economic Development Advisory Board for Princeton. We have 2 budget revisions, and they are for Finance and Health Department. Any need to remove any of those for further discussion? All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All right, the consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have public comments, and I'm going to ask our manager, Rick Hester, to come forward with the first part of that.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Back 2 weeks ago, when you recognized retirees and Miss Laster here, she was unable to attend. There she is. Hey, she was unable to attend, but Martha is the Deputy Finance Director. She's going to be retiring here shortly in just a few days. She came to Johnston County from the Local Government Commission, which you know approves all the borrowings that the county does, and then brought that experience to Johnston County, and she has done an amazing job with debt management, grant management, and many other things. And this is extra special for me because Martha and I graduated from high school together a few years ago at East Bladen High School in Elizabethtown, so we've been friends for a long time, and I'm so glad you were able to come tonight. I know Chad might have a few things to add.
Martha is special. You always want to surround yourself with people that know more than you, and Martha's one of them. She has been directly, when I started, I wanted to get back to receiving financial awards for Johnston County, and I think we're on 15 years in a row. Martha is directly responsible for that. And she's the backbone of a lot of things that we do in the office, and she's also responsible for this county saving tens of millions of dollars in debt and debt restructuring over the years by herself. You know, we've all chipped in, but Martha has led that charge. So doing more and saving these taxpayers money behind the scenes is what Martha did. And we talk about home run hires and things like that. And Rick's responsible for it, but Martha is she's the definition of what we call a home run hire in Johnston County, for all that she's done for us and for this county and for its citizens. So I'm sorry to see her go, but I think I've taught her to come back and doing some for us, and she's an invaluable piece of what we do, and we look forward to continuing to work with her on her schedule and having her around to lead us into the next wave of debt that we're going to take on over the next few years.
Can we keep her on retainer?
We're going to do whatever we can do.
Fantastic.
I'd just like to say thanks to all of you, and thanks to Rick and Chad and Chandra and Kim and the rest of the staff. Everybody that comes up here says we have a wonderful staff, and it's true. We really do. We have top-notch folks here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with them and you as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's get a picture. Yeah, we need to get a picture.
Her husband David is here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
Let's put that backwards.
You can Photoshop Bill in.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna take a few. Make sure everybody has their eyes closed. Everybody smile. Perfect. Thanks, y'all.
Awesome. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Then you don't have to stay just for old time's sake. Yeah. All right. Now is the more traditional part of the public comments. This is a time for anyone that wishes to comment to the board to come forward, address the board for 3 minutes. And this is also on any item that's not on the agenda. If you would, state your name and your town or township, and if you would, to maintain proper decorum at all times and keep your comments so that they're civil in nature. This is also a listening opportunity for the board, so time to hear your thoughts and not intended to be an exchange of conversation between the board and the person addressing the board. So if you would, your name and your town or township, please.
Yes, I'm Shakira Frazier. I'm a resident of Wilson Mills. I also am an organizer with Down Home, North Carolina. We're a community org working to build working class power and working to hold elected officials accountable to address local issues. Awesome. So just starting. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to introduce several federal programs that can greatly benefit low-income communities and seniors in our area, specifically through enhancing access to fresh and nutritious foods. Eggs, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's all right. That's all right.
Awesome, okay. Eggs are
I
not
don't know
the
why
only
he's being
item.
videoed right there.
Yeah.
Just relax.
I know, he's not getting my good side,
It's
so
under control,
there. Eggs are not the only item experiencing significant price increases at grocery stores, and many families are growing increasingly concerned about their access to affordable and nutritious foods. One key resource is the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, the FMNP. It provides vouchers for fresh fruits and vegetables to low-income seniors and families. These vouchers can be used at participating farmers markets, making it easier for people to access local and fresh produce. Additionally, Double Up Food Bucks is a program that matches SNAP benefits, allowing recipients to stretch their dollar further when purchasing fresh fruits and vegetables at farmers markets. For those who may not yet qualify for SNAP and WIC, but still need support, community-supported agriculture, or CSA programs, are another option. This is where individuals and families can access fresh and local food directly from farmers. Some CSAs offer sliding scale payment options, making them more affordable for those in need. We can bring these programs to life in Johnston County by collaborating with our farmers markets and encouraging community participation. A great access point would be to engage local farmers, community groups, and residents who can help spread the word. Down Homes hopes to increase awareness of the public community gardens available in Johnston County. Like the Fifth Street Community Garden, currently under construction from a beautification grant from the town of Smithfield. These gardens allow individuals to grow their own food, providing a valuable resource for families, especially for those who may fall in the gray area, meaning they don't qualify for federal programs like WIC or SNAP, but are still facing economic hardship. Every community should have community gardens. That's what we believe at Down Home. By leveraging these federal initiatives and expanding access to community gardens, we can ensure that more families in our communities have opportunity to eat fresh fruits and healthy vegetables without facing those financial barriers. Thank you for your time. I look forward to working with all of you and making these resources more accessible to our community.
Thank you, Ms.
All right,
Bailey.
thank you.
I will say our public information staff is always looking for good help, so I think we have one intern right now, but keep that in mind. So. Mr. Saunders?
How you doing? Yes, I'm back again because I had received a letter from the attorney about the chicken coop. And what they did, they took and cut 2 inches away from the 2x4 that was connecting all the sections together. Now they waited for the smoke to clear. They done took a fence and fenced in the whole thing, so it's one piece. I found a statute under Johnston County law stating combined structures. If you are building multiple smaller structures that are intended to be connected and used for one, and combined structure exceeds 12 feet by any dimension, you will be needing a building permit. So they never got a building permit, and what I don't understand is why they're breaking the laws and stuff of building permits, and it seems like Mr. Hester and his employees are finding ways to defend someone that is building stuff and had stuff draining on my property without permits and all kinds of stuff, breaking setback laws and all that. So what I'm here to do today, I want to meet with the county commissioner that's in charge of my area and sit down with Mr. Hester, because getting him to facilitate stuff, because he called me and made a suggestion for me to sit down with the neighbors and come to some kind of agreement. What is their agreement for? Why should I come to an agreement when they're the ones that's doing something unorderly? When I built my garage, I abided by Johnston County's building codes and purchased a buildings permit. So I don't understand why it seems like I'm on the defense when they're doing stuff and you're promoting them to do more and more mischievous stuff. The flies, the smell, and all that stuff is outrageous. So I need to sit down with you. Are you in charge of my area off of 42 West?
I'm not
In
sure
Clayton?
exactly where you live, but Rick, if you can facilitate and
Yeah.
make sure who that
Yeah,
commissioner
because
is.
we need to sit down and have a meeting. And today, officially, I've been thinking about this and going through the problems. I'm sure it's other taxpayers out here that's having problems with being tax-paying citizens and feel like the government that here in Johnston County is coming up short on their behalf. So I'm going to start an organization called the Watchdogs of Johnston County. And my email address is kgsaunders23@gmail.com. And I'm going to start sitting here every week from now on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak? Mr.
Hello. Denton Lee, 2 Annandale Drive, Clayton, North Carolina, in the heart of the Cleveland community. In June 2018, almost 7 years ago, I, along with 4 other brave souls, borrowed the money to buy an 80-acre property known as the Booker Tract in the heart of the Cleveland community to preserve it from development and turn it into a future park. The county was unwilling at the time to purchase it, and there was no department of county government like Adrian runs today to purchase it, and that's now dedicated to parks and trails. After much pleading and begging, probably, if y'all remember well, we're thankful to say that the county subsequently bought that piece of property from our little group that had stuck their neck out. We'll soon break ground, according to Adrian, and he'll probably tell us a little bit more about it, some other funding that he may have gotten, but we're soon going to break ground on that park this year. So 7 years after purchase, we're finally going to see a park there, we hope, or at least get started on it. Looking back, I think we can all say that was a pretty good investment of county money, even though a lot of that was through grants and so forth. It was still a good investment for us to have some open land in the middle of a fast-growing community like Cleveland. At the time of that we purchased the land, we strongly encouraged this board to adopt some type of funding formula that would provide money to build and maintain the park on this land. And in other unincorporated communities throughout Johnston County. 7 years later, no funding formula has been developed. There's nothing really other than a small amount coming out of general funds for parks and trails. The master plans and original development of the Cleveland Park have come primarily from grants, and I think we're going to hear about some more tonight. Don't misunderstand me. Grants are wonderful, a great way to subsidize our funding as we build and maintain parks throughout the county and the trails. They've done a remarkable job, Adrian has, with limited funding. 5 years ago, this board held a series of public hearings in the Cleveland community to get the public's input on self-funding parks and unincorporated communities. Patrick, I know you remember well those hearings that we had. I do. During these hearings, one comment that you simply cannot unhear, as long as it's been since we had those hearings, I had a citizen of the Cleveland community say, I don't know why we need to pay for parks here. Clayton and Smithfield have great parks that we can use anytime we want for free. That selfish Cleveland citizen, still stands out in my mind, clearly did not understand that Clayton residents spend around 6% of their 65 cents on top of their county taxes to pay for those nice parks and trails they have in the city of Clayton that one of these citizens is enjoying. It is simply wrong for that citizens and this board to put on the backs of the citizens of the incorporated towns to fund the parks and trails required for the 45,000 citizens in Cleveland. We all know that the county at some point must begin to dedicate some portion of general revenue funding or create a separate tax district like the fire tax to build and maintain parks and trails. If it is countywide funding, I am certain the incorporated towns would be thrilled to receive a boost to their town finance funding or to reduce their own rate by whatever portion was given by the county. The time is now to begin this funding. In the past 30 years, since I-40 came into Johnston County, we have seen an unprecedented wave of growth that has helped us to invest in our infrastructure, which is one of the things that Butch mentioned to begin with, like water, sewer, law enforcement, and schools, without a single tax increase. And that growth has been a wonderful thing for this county. I don't want to be on the other side of that formula, and neither do any of you want to be on the other side of that. I implore this board to begin this budget year to properly fund parks and trails. It is not likely that communities like Cleveland and McGee's and Flowers will ever be able to incorporate and self-fund their own parks and recreation. By default, you are our town board for the Cleveland community and all these other large unincorporated areas.
You have an end somewhere close?
I'm there.
Yeah, okay.
I urge you to seriously consider a funding formula this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service here.
Anyone else?
Lanny Thomas, Cleveland Community. 5 years ago, I talked to Tony Brazel about this park issue, and he said, we can have that park built out in 10 years. I'm going to see that it happens. Well, he is no longer here to help us see that it happens. So I hope that y'all will carry the torch that he started and make a funding formula. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Anyone else? All right, and we have no emails, Madam Clerk, okay? And that will take us to the next item on the agenda, which is a proclamation for the Week of the Young Child, which is April 5th through the 11th of this year. And we have Partnership for Children here to present that. And I have asked Commissioner Stevens to read the proclamation when we get to that point, so.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Myra Burrell from the Partnership for Children of Johnston County. I'm the Grants Manager. Tonight, joining me are Lauren Trogdon, our Family Services Manager, and Lorena Esparza, our Quality Services Manager. Thank you for your continued support. The first 5 years of a child's life are crucial because approximately 85 to 90% of the brain is developed during this time. Children need positive childhood experiences to ensure the strongest foundation of brain development, leading to future success. Our work at the Partnership for Children of Johnston County is aimed at helping provide these positive childhood experiences. We provide parenting education and resource to families, access to high-quality child care through subsidy and NC Pre-K, and provide coaching and mentoring to our early educators. We are at a critical junction in child care as quality educators are needed. To address this, we have begun providing child care academies in which we provide professional development, required trainings, and other tools a person needs to walk into a child care facility qualified to be a teacher assistant. Additionally, we also support them and give them resources to further their education to become a lead teacher. Through the child care academies, our directors are able to hire qualified staff, keep classrooms open, and enroll more children. Week of the Young Child highlights the work we all do to provide positive childhood experiences. Together with your generous support, we can continue building stronger and brighter futures for Johnston County children. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens.
Proclamation Week of the Young Child, April 2025. Whereas the Partnership for Children of Johnston County, Inc., along with other local organizations, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the Week of the Young Child, a time to promote the needs of young children, their families, and the early childhood programs that serve them, because the first years of a child's life are the period of most rapid brain development and lay the foundation for all future learning and success. Whereas children's cognitive, physical, social, and emotional, and language and literacy development are built on a foundation of children's positive interactions with adults, peers, their environment. And whereas public policies that support early learning for all young children are crucial to young children's futures and to the prosperity of our society, as participation in high-quality early childhood education saves taxpayer dollars, makes working families more economically secure, and prepares children to succeed in school, earn higher wages, and live healthier lives. Whereas high-quality early childhood education depends on high-quality early childhood educators who ensure that children, supported by families, have the early experiences they need for a strong foundation. Whereas the majority of these costs, which often exceed the cost of a year of college tuition, are borne by parents who often can afford it. Whereas young children need skilled, educated, competent, consistent, and compensated early childhood educators. Whereas working families need robust subsidies, scholarships, and tax credits for families at all income levels that support the true cost of quality early childhood education. Whereas early childhood educators need the ability to earn a family-sustaining wage that is commensurate with the required education and skills they bring to the complex and valuable work they do. Therefore, the Johnston County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 5th through the 11th, 2025 as the Week of the Young Child, and hereby encourages all citizens to work to support and invest in early childhood in Johnston County. Adopted this the 17th day of March, 2025. I make that in the form of a motion.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries then. Thank you.
Thank you
what
so
y'all
much
do.
for all that y'all do.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, next up is a request from Triangle Land Conservancy for funding on Little River Farm project.
Thank you for having me this evening. I have a presentation. I don't know if it gets projected anywhere, but if not,
We
I can
convene
wing
for you
it.
to look at when it gets up there. We go.
All good. Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm Melissa Clunan. I've met some of you. Some I don't think I have, but I'm the land protection manager at Triangle Land Conservancy. I know you're used to seeing Leanne, but she's taking a well-deserved break, so I am here with you guys tonight. Thank you for having me, and I primarily do land protection projects in Lee and Johnston County, so I'm excited to be here. And yes, I have a funding request for a specific agricultural conservation easement on a property called the Little River Farm. But first, I wanted to give a quick high-level update of a few successes TLC has had recently in our region and in Johnston County. Let's see if I can get this to work. Too far. There we go. So TLC is the primary land trust working in Johnston County. We also serve 5 additional counties, and that is our regional map. Am I good to use this? Or, no? Okay. So this is our regional map. All the green dots are conservation projects that we have closed on or are currently working on. And we had a strategic goal in 2018 to conserve 25,000 acres across our 6-county region, which we actually met last year. So we were really excited to be able to have that success and just keep on going with really excellent projects. Part of the reason we're able to do that is from county support from counties like Johnston, especially with funding over the last few years. So zooming in a little bit on Johnston County specifically, in the last year and some change, we closed on 6 conservation projects. Those are the yellow stars throughout the county, and those are a mix of agricultural conservation easements and some properties protecting habitat and water quality in the county. We are supposed to close on an additional 500 acres in the next 2 weeks. So it's been a very busy month, but we're hoping to come back with a big update for you all in April, where Leanne will surely be back to give a very exciting update on the leveraging that we've been able to do over the last few years with Johnston County funds. Specifically, we've been able to leverage Johnston County funds at a 10-to-1 ratio with state and landowner donations for a total of over $20 million in land value, which is just really exciting. So for my specific request tonight, again, it's what we're calling the Little River Johnston Farm. A couple photos of the crop areas and the location of this property. You can see it. It's kind of hard to see, but it's that little red sliver is the Johnston Farm. It is sandwiched in this conservation corridor, which TLC loves to see corridors of protected land. And I have a closer up map on the next slide, but just north of this property, directly adjacent, is the Hatcher's Bridge Tree Farm Conservation Easement, which Johnston County helped fund, and TLC holds an agricultural easement on that property. And so we were able to close on that with Johnston County's support at the end of 2023. And the remaining conservation land in green along the Little River are all easements that TLC holds that were part of the 540 mitigation. So again, this property is really exciting. The landowners were inspired by the Hatcher's Bridge Tree Farm easement on the adjacent property. They're actually cousins, and they were inspired to protect the rest of their farmland after the landowners were able, I think we went out again, were able to do the easement on Hatcher's Bridge. Let's see if I can get my aerial map up.
This makes me very nervous for all the other presentations.
Happy to be the guinea pig.
Yeah, Yeah,
appreciate you.
No
they
problem.
thank you in the back. They thank you.
I'll just have to describe it in great detail if you can't get the pictures up.
Good news is we have it printed.
Perfect.
So you keep going, we're tracking.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with that land.
Well, I only have one more slide, so I'll just keep going. But yeah, so the conservation easement that I am requesting funding for is just under 40 acres. The landowners have about 6 acres under that mitigation easement on the southern end of their property. And like I said, they want to go ahead and protect the rest of their farm. The northern portion is crop fields that are in rotated crops, and then the southern portion of the property is all in managed timber. They have a forestry management plan for it. And TLC applied for state funding from the Agricultural Development and Farmland Preservation Trust Fund, ADFP, in January. So this is an active grant application that we have submitted for a portion of the easement cost and transaction costs. And the funding request today is for $88,600, which would make up the remaining easement purchase and transaction costs for this property. And something I wanted to highlight today that will be really important going forward related to county funding is that the state is providing extra points. They're doubling the score on those state applications for projects that have secured county funding. And so that is going to be really critical going forward. And again, just so appreciate the support that y'all have shown for TLC and conservation in the past. And so for this property, again, those secured local funds would be really significant in getting it funded by the state and would really allow us to leverage a lot of those state funding going forward. Let me see if I can. That was pretty much it. It's got 60% prime soil. Just a really good farm. There's potential for future conservation. There's basically all family land in that section right around the Hatcher's Bridge Tree Farm, and this farm is some family members that have expressed interest as well. So we're excited about this one. And I will take any questions.
And so your request is for the funding, but you also need that letter of commitment.
Yes, yep. So the state is requiring the letter of commitment in order to provide those extra points for the application. And we'll find out about the state application or the state funding in the fall.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Clunan? All right. What are the wishes of the board?
I did have one question, just for the board. This money would come out of what pocket of money? Where would this money be drawn from?
So, Mr. Rose, your question is where those funds will come from. And we talked about general fund, and I don't know if the open space is able to position Adrian. Is it the open space would be the preference? It's not the Adrian, it's the open space fund.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Same question. What are the wishes of the board?
Oh, I make a motion to approve the funding request in the amount of $88,600 and provide a letter of commitment for the Little River Farm project.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a lot of seconds. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that TLC does for Johnston County.
Thank you for your support.
Chairman, I wanted to expand on that just for Commissioner Rose's knowledge. I think it's also great to highlight that a lot of the funds we use to purchase this are funds that we get when a property is changed over from agricultural residential or it changes into another usage. Those back taxes that are paid in arrears, that's where a lot of these funds come from to continue to purchase land. So if land is changed as far as what it's zoned for, then those taxes we use to purchase conservation land.
I got you. Thank you.
All right. Then we will move on to the next item, which is a resolution naming a bridge on State Road 2130 over I-85 at exit 102. And Commissioner Godwin was going to present that information to
You
us.
mean over I-95?
95, yes. I can't say what I read, but yeah, that was it.
The town of Micro had discussed this. I was at one of their town board meetings, and they want to name the bridge on Main Street that goes over I-95 in honor of Dr. James Batten. He's a a real gem from Johnston County not many people know about. I did not know Dr. Batten myself, but I've heard of him often. But this resolution might explain it some. The reason that we need to adopt this, if we're in favor of it, is the DOT in going through their application, any entity having a jurisdiction over that area would need to come up with a proclamation. And of course, it's in the town of Micro, but it's also in Johnston County. Resolution honoring the memory of Dr. James W. Batten by naming the bridge over I-95 at exit 102 in Micro. Whereas James William Batten was born in North Carolina on August 5, 1919, and began first grade at the New Micro School, from which he graduated in 1936. And whereas he completed his bachelor's degree in UNC Chapel Hill in 1940, master's degree in 1957, whereas he joined the United States Navy in 1941 and was honorably discharged in 1946 with his rank of lieutenant commander, remained a member of the Naval Reserve until 1966. And whereas he resumed teaching at Wilmington College, now UNCW, in 1946, Princeton High School from 47 to 50, and served as principal of Micro High School from 50 to 58. And whereas he was awarded a teaching fellowship at UNC Chapel Hill in 1958, and served as the presenter at the Moorhead Planetarium in 1959. And whereas he completed his doctorate in education in 1960 and was hired as assistant professor at East Carolina University, later promoted to full professor, and served as chair of the Department of Secondary Education, and then assistant dean in the College of Education. Upon his retirement in 1986, Dr. Batten was awarded faculty emeritus. In 1990, was named honorary alumnus of ECU. And whereas while serving at the Moorhead Planetarium, Dr. Batten trained NASA astronauts in the science of celestial navigation, which proved valuable to U.S. astronauts in the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Skylab programs. And whereas Dr. Batten served as a valuable advisor to many Johnston County students while at ECU and challenged students to achieve their greatest dreams. And whereas throughout his life, Dr. Batten expressed his pride in his Johnston County and Micro roots and positively influenced untold individuals in this community prior to his death on December 10, 2004. And whereas the town of Micro and the citizenry thereof desire to have the highway bridge on State Road 2130 over I-95 at exit 102 designated as the Dr. James W. Batten Bridge with appropriate signage. Now therefore be it resolved, the Johnston County Board of Commissioners does hereby support this action and request the North Carolina Department of Transportation to approve the application. Adopted the 17th day of March, 2025.
All right, any questions for?
I move that we adopt that.
Any questions for Commissioner Godwin? All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
I have one discussion during this time.
All right. Have at it.
Add a little color to the story. Dr. Batten was noted as being very punctual, always punctual, any meeting, especially those he chaired. He was once chairing a meeting of the faculty at East Carolina, and he was late. And the group in the meeting became alarmed because he was never late. And finally, someone went to his office, and the reason he was late was then Senator John Glenn was on the phone with him. He had gotten to be very close personal friends when he was teaching John Glenn how to navigate in space through celestial bearings. I thought that was pretty neat.
Seems like a good reason to be late.
Yeah.
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 All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
The oldest lady in my church said he's the smartest man I ever knew.
All right, so the next items, several items on the agenda, otherwise we would be getting ready to adjourn, and I'll take partial blame or credit for this is,
Partial.
yeah, well, okay, I'll take all the blame and credit for this, but typically we have had such nights as this where we get updates on a lot of different projects going on in the county, and especially with our strategic planning retreat coming up next week. Felt like this was a great opportunity to get updated on a lot of these plans and things that are going on. So with that, I think we have J.D. Solomon maybe ready to come in. There we go. And present on our short-term water supply.
I was hiding from you.
Okay.
Make you
You slipped in on me, yeah.
Yeah, I did. So great to be here again tonight, guys. really here to update you on really what's the generational project for the county. J.D. Solomon, I have my own little company, and you guys hired me for my expertise in water and sewer projects. And so this project is the big water treatment program, which is really the plant and a couple major pipelines. Again, generational, it'll give us water supply through 2050, and it comes at a price tag of about $700 million right now. And so strategic partnerships, obviously, across the county with the drinking water system, but also with the town of Clayton, who will probably be into this for a little under half of the project. So a big thing and a lot of decisions to make. Really what I'm hired to do is give it another kind of dust off the business case, make sure we have the right logic and all the stuff that's been developed over the last 7 years is still current. More specifically, questions about affordability have come up. I think it's not whether you'd have to do the project at some point, but it really is how do we make it the most affordable for the amount of ratepayers we have as we go through these next couple decades. The current long-term project looked at all these things. It looked at 13 different options. But its goal was to really look at what was the most practical and cost-effective for the whole time horizon. It didn't really look at these intermediate gaps we may have or needs we may have. And there is a fairly large concern, I would say, between 2030 and 2035, so it's only 5 years away, about whether we'll have enough water supply. So that's really where I come in to look at a lot of the short-term options that were there. And again, some of those were in the long-term plan, but that was not their goal. Some of the things that may be attractive in the 2030 range, as far as wholesale agreements or other things, weren't sufficient for the long-term project, but they will be for this particular one. I think the end point for my project is really to bring the commissioners here and the town council in Clayton as a strategic partner, a document that's going to be easily digestible for the public. I mean, it's a lot of money, and rates will go up because of it, and people need to understand kind of where we've been and where we've been going, and a third party like myself can do that. I do see a good visual as part of this where we make the case for all the options we've looked at and why some of those doors closed and why some of those still may remain open. Because I think if you look over the decades as we go forward, there may be some options you want to keep going because you just don't know how the growth is going to go or how the risk factors are going to go moving forward. We're not, my little firm's not trying to recreate the wheel. You've had a number of good consultants working on this so far. So what I hope to do is just bring everything together, make it current, and bring you guys back with something that's, again, digestible for the public to understand why we're doing this and why the rates are going to go where they're going to go. The timeline for what I'm doing is we've talked to the three major consultants. There's three major infrastructure consultants that have worked with the county and the town of Clayton. So we've talked to those three so far. This week I'm talking to the financial consultants. I just talked to Clayton's primary financial consultant today, and we'll be meeting with the county's team on Wednesday. And then in 2 weeks, as part of the process, going back out to our four major jurisdictions that may be wholesale water suppliers for us, and talk again to them to make sure what can they give us for how long, because 6 or 8 or 10 million gallons may make a big difference for the next 10 or 15 years. And so we'll be bringing that information back. My timeline is that will happen first week of April. So I'll be drafting the document throughout the month of April, and hopefully sometime in early May, I'll be back with a draft that'll hopefully give this board and the public some confirmation and some maybe new direction, but at least confirmation of the path we're going on so far. So I'm going to stop there. That's 5 or 6 minutes, and I promised Butch I'd be short. So really just ask you guys questions. Any questions or comments?
You said four major suppliers that you had talked to. Who are they?
Raleigh, Wilson, Harnett County, and Goldsboro. And you've got agreements with 3 of those 4 already.
Okay.
And they've been I talked to them as part of the regionalization study that most of you are aware that our firm did with you guys, and that's still active. I know y'all's consultant has talked to them. Your staff has talked to them. You've got agreements so far. And Clayton's staff has talked to them. So it's really about how do we get it back for that one final decision of what we're, can we make a deal, or is there a deal to be had with those 4 folks?
All right. And I'll say, Commissioner Stovall, I know you have a lot of interest in this. Any questions at this point?
Not at this point. I think that was a very good update of where we stand and look forward to the final report.
All right.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
I had one
Yes.
quick question. Is there anything that you think could be done legislatively, changing the rules of what is currently in place that could help us get down the road a little further before we actually have to start building and constructing?
Possibly. It's variable. I've worked on these before in Charlotte area, and I've worked on them including Concord. I've worked on them in Cary and Wake County. There is some potential legislative things that could be done. Very fluid, so it's hard to count on them. But we are during the long session now, and I hope to get a read on those as well, too, because that could impact some of the past context of how decisions got made versus what could happen. But if they don't happen soon, we need this to happen. So if we don't see those changes soon, it won't matter. So, but let me back up, Commissioner, too. I'll say this. That is one reason why you live to fight another day, too. If we can't afford to do the whole project and we can do part of the project now and buy some time, we may see legislative changes between now and 2030 or 2035. So it does buy us time, the more we can keep options available. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have our Utility Director, Chandra Farmer, to talk to us about the long-range water supply.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey.
I think JD gave a really good update of kind of where we're going with that and what he's doing interim for us and looking at the project. But I'll give you a few more specifics to the Lower Neuse water supply project, which you know we've already hired a consultant. We have a few things going to get us in a position when we are ready to pull that trigger and move forward with developing with that project. Our consultant has completed the hydraulic modeling that identifies our necessary finished water mains that are based on our demand projections for the next 20 years. So that's the additional finished water mains that we would need throughout the county to move that finished water to our high demand areas. We're also working with our technical consultant, our owner's advisor for this project, that is HDR, that we have already have a contract with. They're working with us to develop our owner's project criteria so we know what we would need for a future water treatment plant on that site. They're also working on preliminary permitting and site planning and an NPDES discharge permit that will be required once we treat the water, the residual water that has to go back and be discharged back into the river. That's a long-term process to get that type of permit, so we have started that process because we know we will need that one day. Also, Public Water Supply has approved our proposed withdrawal from the Neuse River at Richardson Bridge Road. So we have that check box done, that permitting and approval process has been completed. We're working with our rate consultant, Wildan Financial Services, and our financial advisors at Davenport on financial and modeling. That JD alluded to that. But that modeling, it'll include multiple options on how we do fund this future long-term water supply project. I'll remind you that the general fund does not currently support any water or sewer projects. All of our projects, all of our expenses and revenues are solely from water and sewer customers that are part of our system. The rate modeling update will also include rate projections with and without this Lower Neuse water supply. So we know we'll be able to identify the rate adjustments that are needed specifically to build this new large water supply project versus those rate adjustments that are going to be needed by the county anyway to address increased labor costs, increased chemicals, fuels, inflation, and additional treatment that may be required to comply with new rules and regulations. So it's actually going to be a very complicated model, but a very flexible model so we can get so we can really get an idea of real impacts associated with this project and the different ways we can spread that out to make it financially feasible for our customers. The schedule for the project, we have been working to schedule meetings with some of our bulk water customers to discuss this project and make sure we understand their interest and determine if they may be interested when we do move forward, if they're interested in an upfront participation or if they are not interested immediately in additional water capacity. Our current projections show that we need an additional 5 million gallons per day by 2030. Now, this is may be an aggressive model. You may recall half of our future water demands are those that have been identified by the town of Clayton. So the town of Clayton is updating their modeling and their projections to determine, are these accurate projections, or what do we need to do? You know, how would this work with scheduling if we delay the project? How much could we delay the project? The project will take 5 to 6 years. If we started this summer, we would have new water capacity available online by 2031 is our current projection for that. So once we have some of this additional information, once we have JD's evaluation and then some of this additional modeling, we'll certainly be able to make better decisions as we move forward. Any questions for me?
Any questions from the board? No, I do want to reiterate a couple of things you said. One is that we're not talking about general fund money here. So that's another, it's an enterprise fund, so we're talking about, in this case, water users will be the ones. And
That's correct, water users. We have retail water users and we have bulk water users. So a lot of the towns in the county purchase water from Johnston County, so this could have an impact not just on our retail water customers, but certainly on water customers of the towns within the county as well.
And I would just say, I think that I'm not trying to speak for the whole board, but I think this board wants to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for the users, that we're looking at the rates as we move forward. So that is, I know sometimes it seems like we've got two things going on at the same time, and we do, but it is because we're wanting to make sure we're making the best decisions for our users as we can, and as informed decision as we can make.
You know, I don't want to be the one that calls that baby ugly, but there's literally thousands and thousands of people that's going to question. I think we all acknowledge the fact that growth is a good thing. That's just a given. Growth is a good thing. Whether I've been here in this county 10 years or all my life, suddenly I'm faced with a possible severe growth in my water bill because of the growth. My water needs haven't changed. You know, my consumption hasn't changed. But suddenly I'm faced with dealing with that. So don't be surprised if you hear thousands and thousands of customers out there, citizens saying, whoa, why is growth a good thing? Let's think about that as we approach every item.
And I just wanted to reiterate what Chairman Lauder said, was that just in straight layman's terms, the general fund is what we get from property taxes and so forth. This is not that. So there are those I have heard who are worried that the taxes are going up and the revals somehow tied to this, and it is completely separate. So I just wanted to lay that out there so that everyone is fully aware.
That's correct. And Commissioner Godwin, to address your concerns, you know, one big portion of this rate modeling, like I said, we're going to ensure we model it so we can identify those increases that are solely related to this new water capacity project. But we also have that rate model with the system development fees and capacity fees, where certainly we, to the extent possible, try to structure the rates so that the growth can pay for the growth with those types of fees. So the new customers, when they buy into the system with those system development fees, they are paying for that capacity and what that capacity costs.
Remind our citizens that we've heard a lot of people say you should be charging an impact fee, and we can't do that, right?
Right. The system development fee is essentially what some would term an impact fee.
Right.
Impact fees or capacity fees, you know, there's a statute that determines what type of fee we can charge for water and sewer capacity, and that is a system development fee. And how we calculate that is defined by statute. We have to follow that calculation and that model. And we continually update that. That's part of this water and sewer rate model update that we are doing now. That will be updated as well.
Good. I just want to raise that question so the citizens know we're trying to do that.
Ms. Farmer, I did have one question also, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear and I understand this, that not only, expanding the capacities and so forth, but one of the things that affects the rates is also the fact that it costs more to treat the water now than it did last year and the year before and 5 years ago. So it's not just solely about the growth, which that is a contributing factor, but there are contributing factors that are above and beyond that, and it is the cost of treating the water.
That's correct, that's right. Chemical costs change, fuel costs change, labor costs change, rules change requiring us to implement new measures. And we certainly want to ensure we have reliable facilities and continue to maintain and rehab and replace as necessary. So yes, those costs are going to be in there. And that's going to be one important part of this model for us to be able to pull that out and distinguish between the reason for the rate increases. You know, which ones are driven by those factors versus what would be driven by new capacity construction of this project.
And you mentioned rules, so when you're talking about treatment for PFAS and where that is, that's expensive ordinance. So where you've been using county water since it's been around or not, that's going to be expense that all the users are going to have to.
That's right. And that's something that will have to be retrofitted and implemented at our existing water treatment plant. And it's something that would have to be designed into any kind of new treatment facilities.
Commissioner Stovall, any comments, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a couple of comments. I know these system development fees, like I say, are targeted specifically toward the water and sewer, but growth brings challenges across the board, whether it be schools, whether it be public services, fire protection, et cetera. We're not allowed to charge any fees to compensate for that. This is a service that we've got to keep affordability in mind for the rank and file customer out there. I think Mr. Godwin kind of put it succinctly there that nothing's really changed on his end, but he's looking at what the cost is going to do in the future there. How we allocate our utilities out going forward, I think needs to be that funding formula be kept in mind. As we get growth, not all growth pays for itself. We put a lot of money into building houses in this county, and all empirical studies over the last 40 years have shown that residential construction, while there are benefits to it, does not pay for itself in terms of the property tax that it generates. In North Carolina, the average is for every dollar it generates in property tax, residential demands back $1.25 in services from the government. But if you got uses like industry, commercial, and farming, for every dollar they generate in property tax, they only demand back less than 30 cents on the dollar, or approximately. So you've got different types of growth here that's going to ensure that you've got positive revenue in our system. And I think we need to be sensitive as we go forward and how we allocate out our water and sewer to ensure that we not only have job-producing growth that generates positive net tax revenue, but also rooftops for citizens.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Ms. Farmer, you're not going very far because now you're going to switch from water we're taking out of the river to water just falling from the sky and running off. So we're going to talk about stormwater. So.
We had a lot of that yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Proposed stormwater ordinance revisions. In February 17th, our staff presented a summary of proposed revisions to our ordinance to the board. We have, in total, still only received about 4 or 5 people with comments regarding those revisions. Most of those were submitted prior to our presentation in February. We've provided the proposed revisions to our outside legal counsel for review and edits of the ordinance. We've received their initial comments back, and we're working to review those and respond to the consultant. We'll be working with the legal counsel on looking at that language. The biggest thing that we are still, I would say somewhat in limbo, is we are still trying to determine the best means to handle small projects and or minor type subdivisions. We want to be consistent with the county's UDO. That's important, and I know planning and Braston, they're working on that now. So we're going to work on some alignment there. However, we still have to meet the requirements of the updated NUIS rules, and unfortunately, some of those applications are going to be required even for smaller type developments than what we had hoped. The nutrient export part of that, the nutrient reduction, is applicable to more development than what we would have attenuation or something like that apply to. So we're struggling. We do not want to overcomplicate it for small, single-family lots or just small, minor type subdivisions. So we're working through that. We're trying to get a good solution there. We want to make sure we make the right solution before we move forward on the ordinance. We hope to have the proposed revisions ready to share with stakeholders by the end of April. Then that would give us May to have an updated meeting with stakeholders, talk through with them, and then hopefully maybe a public hearing in June with the board on the proposed ordinance revisions. Any questions on that? Now, of course, the schedule could change some. Again, I want to make sure we also, we align with planning's proposed revisions on the UDO. That alignment, I think, is going to be important, because we don't want to put something out there, then we need to go back and change it.
The comments you have received, did they come from any concentrated audience, like developers or whatever?
Mostly from engineers, design engineers.
Technical type questions?
Yeah, and I would just encourage, and I know you've probably all gotten calls, that if we can take those calls to the commissioners to comments to you and your staff, that would be greatly
Please.
appreciated.
Yes. Please, we welcome the feedback.
And is there a place on the website or just email? How's the best way to get that info?
It can be emailed directly to me or to Jessica Batten in our office, and it's on our website.
Okay.
We do have our contact is on the website.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you. All right. And well, you're still up. I think you got 3 up there. So, all right. So
Sorry.
Let's roll on. Let's roll on to the third one.
Okay. There are several properties on Cornwallis Road near NC 42, or I guess that's Veterans Parkway now. They're just south of Veterans Parkway on Cornwallis Road that have requested annexation by the town of Clayton. And those projects would consist of 2 new developments in this proposed annexed area. In order for the town of Clayton to provide retail water and sewer services within this annexed area, should they annex it, the county would provide bulk water and sewer services to the town to serve these developments. We've been talking with the town about these for quite some time. We have been working on an interlocal agreement that would specify the conditions in which the county would provide these bulk services to the town. Some of the things that we are looking at with them is basically the interlocal agreement would outline the capacity limits, the points of wastewater discharge into the county's collection system. The town and/or the developer would be responsible for some improvements, which the major would include construction of flow equalization at the county's existing Swift Creek wastewater pump station that is located on Cornwallis Road. And there would also be some master metering required by the town and/or the developer. Some of that master metering, which will be water and sewer, and some of that would require pass-through flow from the county. So the county constructed this system. Some of this existing system was constructed knowing we have flow that's got to flow through this development area, and that would have to continue to happen, and we have to have a way to meter that and monitor that, and so that would be responsibility of the town and/or the developer. The intent by the town to utilize county bulk services for this is they would use a portion of their existing wastewater capacity they already own with the county. The town owns 1.44 million gallons a day of existing wastewater capacity in the county system, and they have plans to take some of that flow away from the county system. They'll be diverting the East Clayton industrial area wastewater they currently receive back to their new wastewater treatment plant. My understanding is this would be in early 2026, so they would use some of that existing capacity, replace it with flow from this area. Of course, any water capacity would be new capacity they would have to purchase from the county. Any questions on our proposed structure or proposed arrangements? Of course, a future agreement would have to come back to the board for approval with all of the details in that.
No, I didn't have any comments on the details, but I do know that our land use plan recently updated, called for pushing growth towards the towns, and to me this is the first opportunity for us to do that. So all that you talked about sounds good. I just want to make sure we reach a deal that works for both parties.
How many parcels did you say was involved in that annexation?
I'm not exactly sure of the number of parcels. I know there are 2 large tracts right off of Cornwallis, and then a couple of smaller ones involved as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, one came before us 4 years ago, or something, Jurgen
Troxler.
Yeah, Troxler, yeah. And the other one is up on Veterans Parkway that the Kennys own. it's now the Kennedy. I don't know if that was the Ford, part of the Ford
Ford,
property
yes.
back when we looked at it. Commissioner Stovall, did you have any questions, comments?
I just want clarification. Chandra, you said that Clayton is going to service the sewer that has been allocated to them from the county. Is that correct?
Yes, they will use some of the existing allocation they've already purchased in the county system to serve this tract, or this area.
All right. Do you know precisely how much of that allocation they have already promised out versus how much remains?
They are using, I think they have promised out almost all of what they have already purchased from the county. It's my understanding. But they are reallocating that because they're taking a portion of that off of the county system. So some of that serves the East Clayton industrial area, that's what's being diverted back to the town's plant, so they'll no longer need to discharge that to the county system. So they'll replace that
Okay.
flow.
That's helpful. I just want to echo Chairman Lawler's comments about our land use plan is pushing this type of development toward the municipalities, and we've got to ensure that our municipal partners are capable of serving them from a utility standpoint as well, particularly when they're interconnected with us. So thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right.
Thank
I think you are done this time. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandra.
All right. Next up, we have Adrian O'Neill with our Parks, Greenways, and Open Space Department here to give us an update.
Good evening. Glad y'all having me tonight, and just wanted to. I got to thinking about it, and we have 4 commissioners here that were not here when we started. We have 3 that were, so I kind of wanted to go back to the beginning, and it's not that far for us because we've only been around for 5 years. But you know, we started in 2019. We had already had a countywide master plan that had been presented but not adopted. We did an update then, and it was adopted by the commissioners in 2020. And then as Denton mentioned, in 2020, we purchased the first, or the county purchased the first part of park property, and it was $1.6 million. So we got almost 80 acres, and $1 million of that came from Parks and Recreation Trust Fund and Land and Water Conservation Fund. So the county only had about $600,000 in that piece of property. Along that time, we helped with the creation of the Friends of Johnston County, and that's a group that supports us and advocates for parks in Johnston County. We're really proud of. With that, we did our second open space grant cycle, which we have fee in lieu that we get money from when a development comes in, and now, back then it was $400 per lot. Now it's about $1,000 per lot that comes in if they don't want to provide open space in their community or amenities. And so we allocated back in 2020 $971,000 from that fund. It had been around a while, so it built up. 2021, we turned around and we got a DOT state planning and resources grant, $150,000 to do the Neuse River Trail feasibility study. And then also in 2021, we purchased a piece of property from the school system for East Clayton boat ramp, which is right off of Covered Bridge Road, 42 and the Neuse River. By that time, we also were transferred 20 acres from Raleigh Parks and Recreation that had been a donation. It's crazy how Raleigh had a piece of property in Johnston County. It's a long story that I won't bore you with tonight. But anyway, we were able to get that. It's right beside the water plant, and it plays into our plans for the future, and we're working on that right now. In 2022, probably the best thing I ever did was recruiting and hiring grants coordinator. I think you all know him, Austin Cross, and he's at another meeting tonight, or he'd be in the crowd. He's at 4 Oaks working on adoption of a trail study. 2023, the county purchased Wilson Mills Trail property adjacent to Wilson Mills High School for Mountains to Sea Trail and East Coast Greenway. And we also got a grant for that one. which is North Carolina Land Water Conservation Fund, $1.1 million. We'll leave it at that. It's 1113900. Then in 2023, we had the Smithfield to Benson East Coast Greenway feasibility study, which was a DOT IMD paved trail grant, which was $142,000. 2023, we allocated open space money again to the tune of $711,000. I'm glad to say that that money is almost spent, which means all those projects are almost done, which is a good thing. The 2024, we started discussions with Triangle Greenways Council to donate land to Johnston County. It's a piece of land they've been holding a long time for trails. And we're set to talk to them and get that agreement so we can accept, the county can accept that piece of property. I can't remember exactly how many acres, but it's right along the Neuse River, right across 70 or the Interstate 42 from Selma. So with that, it'll be part of the East Coast Greenways Mountains as well. And then we have our design build going on for Johnston County Regional Park. Phase 1, we have a part-if grant for that. It's $500,000, and the estimated completion date on that is late 2026. We're in the engineering right now. It's a design build, so after that, we'll go straight into the bid process with the company. Balfour Beatty is the one doing that with McAdams, and that is going really well. Also, at the same time, we're dealing with or getting the Johnston County Trails and Greenways Master Plan. That's estimated to be completed by the end of 2025. Again, that was another grant from DOT, State Planning and Resources, $150,000. 2025 East Clayton River Access Collaboration, that's the boat ramp. We call it river access because it's not power boats, it's just car tops. But we have a grant from the Water Resources Development, which is part of, kind of associated with WRC, but they're going to pay for half of that ramp. And then we're collaborating with Clayton to manage it, and we'll be asking for the other half to get that built. So it's a pretty good deal for $300,000 to get a whole boat ramp built, but that's what Wildlife does. So, one of our very strong collaborative partnerships is with Triangle Land Conservancy. Right now, they're working to preserve 330 acres of the Rose Dairy Farm. And we are talking to them about an agreement that would allow us to manage that, give us office space, and give us our first open park, most likely by the end of 2025. Be a day use park, trails, connection to the Neuse River, connection to Black Creek. And that's something we're really excited about. There's a lot of things to do to get that to happen. But that's a shining star for us. And then finally, the Wilson Mills High School trail design is underway. And that was a grant that we talked about a while back. It was a carbon reduction grant. I remember Commissioner Godwin talked about it and asked how that would work. That's $3.3 million with a Complete the Trails grant of $600,000. And that will build approximately 2 miles of trail right behind the high school. So it'll connect the closest neighborhood to the high school and to another small park that came from that 20 acres we got donated from Raleigh. So to date, we have achieved $7,151,900 in grant funding for a county match of $5,029,800.
Well, I was about to run out of fingers. Fantastic.
We saw you over there counting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've been working on. We're always looking for new projects. Austin, which is, again, the best hire I've ever made, pushes me every day and says, you need to talk to somebody about this, you need to talk to somebody about this. And along those lines, I push him back and say, okay, you're gonna be director one day, so you need to talk to him too. But, anyway, that's what we've got going on. And, hopefully, before too long, we'll bring you some pictures on all those. We'd love to take you out to any of those sites, let you look at them, get your ideas about them.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend the Rose Dairy Farm.
I think we've got a lot of takers on the Rose Dairy, and TLC has closed on that property, and that was one that the county helped out with to the tune of $500,000 last year. I think they may be asking for a little more to finish it out. But the owner has moved, and we'll be able to get in there pretty soon and start getting things worked out so we can work on that. And we want to bring you more information on it. We don't want.
I think we decided that was a remote commissioner's office, isn't that what we decided?
It can be, absolutely.
Oh, that was
Absolutely.
Parks and Greenways Open Space office, one of the two, yeah.
But, are there any questions about what's going on?
I would say in the Greenways will be part of the CTP update, is that correct? I'm kind of
It will
looking
be
past
an
to the back
appendix.
yeah.
Be an appendix that will go into it.
Okay.
And then how long is the survey open? I know it's still on the website. How much longer is it open for the
The
public?
survey has got, I want to say, another week.
Okay.
And last time I checked, we had about 500 participants on that survey. We've done our other two surveys. We've been around the 700 mark.
Okay.
So I think we're in pretty good shape to get to that 700 mark again and get, consistent participation in those surveys. We would always love to have more, but I think we've got.
We'll get a push from
I
our
was about to
public
say.
information office.
They have been great doing that. The HR has been great doing that for the staff. So, and we do get a great amount of support. It's all of our commissioners throughout these 5 years have given us good support on everything we've asked for.
And I had one quick, just curious. So out of the subdivisions that we have now, what percentage, if you know, pays the fee in lieu versus does their own recreation? You got a feel for that?
I would say that about 60% pays the fee in lieu, 40% does their own thing.
Okay.
And I may get adjusted on that with Bryson and Eric and chime in too.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Stovall, any questions for Mr. O'Neill?
No questions. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
March 25th is when it closes, so we've got about a week and a half.
Okay.
All right. All right. Next up, we have Braston Newton, our planning director, here to introduce presentations on the UDO and also on the transportation plan.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. So we do have a couple of updates for you. One is regarding our Unified Development Ordinance redevelopment project. And the purpose of this project is several-fold, but our two main goals here is to modernize our ordinances and to overhaul those so that they're consistent with our land use plan, which has already been mentioned here tonight. In addition to that, we'll also be ensuring that any adopted policies that the county has that would be applicable are also consistent with those ordinances and land use plan as well. And this evening we have for you Ms. Cindy Schwarzkopf from Kimley Horn is here to give you a brief update on where we are with that. We have, and she will, I think, touch on this briefly during her presentation, but we do have a piece of legislation that was ratified last November that is caused us a little bit of heartache. It's making this process a little bit difficult in order as we look at achieving the goals in our land use plan. So we're trying to find some inventive ways to work around that obstacle. But there are some recension bills that have been introduced at the legislature to rescind that on a statewide level, and then there's been multiple recension bills for individual or groupings of authorities or jurisdictions out there. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Do you want to remind us what that legislation was?
So yes, sir, absolutely. That was Senate bill. So Senate bill was 382. That legislation essentially eliminated downzoning that were to be initiated by any government entity, any local government body. So essentially, a downzoning is if you have property and let's say it's of an intense zoning, say an industrial zoning, and you're reducing that or changing that initiated by the government to a commercial, a lower light commercial zoning, then that's considered downzoning. There are some other key components there which gets down to the actual development level or development standards level that would also be considered downzoning. But once again, there are recension bills that are out there. Hopefully, we'll get some headway on that in the very near future.
In the absence of, are you talking about in the absence of a request from the property owner?
That's correct. So if the government, if any local jurisdiction did want to downzone property, it would require written consent from each affected property owner. But it does not prevent any property owner from giving consent and voluntarily seeking a downzoning. So that really has some implications with regard to land preservation for us, especially as we look in some of our more rural counties. Currently, we have a single zoning district that covers the majority of unincorporated Johnston County, and so we're treating everything in a vacuum as it's all being equal. And it's not. I mean, let's just be honest. The growth has occurred and is going to continue to occur in certain areas of our county, and so all things are not equal. We can't treat it in that manner. So, but at this time, I'd love to introduce Miss Cindy Schwarzkopf from Kimley Horn, and she'll give you a presentation.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Commissioners. Manager Hester, thank you very much for having me here this evening. Just quickly wanted to give a quick overview of where we're at. Let's make sure I do this correctly here. Oh, yay. Again, I'm Cindy Schwarzkopf with Kimley Horn. Been before you, I think, last fall to kind of introduce this project and talk a few things that we were working on. First of all, I just want to thank Braston and Cameron. They have been amazing partners to us for this. I feel like Braston and I are talking on a daily basis about things, and our team has been sending lots of different sections of the UDO for staff comment. And this really is an iterative process. You know, we come up with suggestions, and Braston challenges us on things, and we come back. And we're not done yet. We have lots of review to do with the different sections in the UDO, but it has been a really great collaborative process, and I really appreciate the spirit with which he is treating this effort. A few things for today. I want to talk about the schedule, a little bit about some of the takeaways from our open house that we held in January, quick overview of some of the sections, and then a little bit about where we're going. Again, started this project last fall. Right now, we are really in the mix of section number 2 here, the UDO development, working on different sections. And Braston did touch on Senate Bill 382. I'll get to that as well. It is making things a little more difficult for us right now. We can't really be looking at the zoning districts as much, some of the use standards. As Commissioner Godwin talked about, you know, any individual property owner can ask for a downzoning or for changes in the property, but if the county was to initiate a remapping effort or anything like that, that would be a challenge under Senate Bill 382. There's been 20 or 21 bills filed to date. I don't believe there's been one yet for Johnston County, so kind of monitoring that on a daily basis. I am part of the NCAPA Legislative Committee, so I'm keeping up with that. Hopefully we'll get some clear direction in the next couple months about how this is going to play out. But again, we did hold an open house community meeting the end of January. I saw some of you all there, so thank you for attending. We met with a group of citizens, stakeholders, to kind of learn about what was important to them in the code, what did they see on a daily basis that needed to be changed. We took all that information and we're processing through that. We're also going to be convening a meeting probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks with a small focus group of stakeholders, of representatives from the development community, representatives from the agricultural community, specifically spread geographic throughout the county, so that we're making sure that we're getting a good representation of people that utilize the UDO on a daily basis, people that are involved in agriculture, and a good representation from Clayton to Benson and beyond, so that we're making sure we're hearing from everybody. We do anticipate holding a series of community open houses in each of your all's districts. Probably in the June time frame. Then we'll be posting the draft UDO online for public comment in the summertime, and then hoping to get this to you in early fall for your review and approval. Some of our survey results, we had, I don't know, 20 or 30 people that showed up during the time frame while we were there, and we had a few questions for them, asking them about what portions of the code do they currently use the most. And the people that were in attendance that day, you know, they dealt with land use and zoning, standards and setbacks. We had a good number of representatives from the design community there, so they were very familiar with the standards. Felt like parts of the codes that worked very well were the processes and the people, very complimentary of county staff through the survey results. Things that they felt that needed improvement, district regulations, dimensional standards, definitions, setbacks, perhaps some of the subdivision standards and processes, and then things that could work better. Subdivision process, what's the definition of a minor or major, what types of subdivisions could be staff approved or should be approved by the board. Code accessibility right now, the hosting on American Legal is a bit cumbersome, and that is for all of our clients that we deal with. I hear that all the time, that American Legal, it's a cumbersome platform, and that it does provide an inability to use colors and graphics and tables, so we'll be offering some different suggestions for that as well. Some of the other open house takeaways, among the most valued components Johnston County can offer the community, these three things took the top. People wanted to see more about open space and buffers, expanded and improved parks and sidewalks, things that they wanted to see within the UDO to help guide future development. Other things that ranked highly were landscaping, some options for low-impact design, things about parking, and then things that people kind of thought were important, but on the bottom of the list were streetscape improvements, things related to signage, and then building height. So like I mentioned, we've been going back and forth with Braston and staff over the past couple months, and we have submitted sections of code and worked through staff comments related to some of the permitted uses and use standards, special uses, accessory uses, temporary uses. We've started really diving into the planned unit development standards. Also looking in just the entire chapter of development standards, everything from open space and recreation, lighting, EV charging, wireless telecommunications, lots of different sections that are really kind of new things that we need to be thinking about that Johnston County hasn't been thinking about in the past. Our first presentation to you last fall was about subdivision standards, so we're still working through those and finalizing that. Our group right now is working on, again, how are we going to handle zoning. We're hopeful that we'll be able to get past Senate Bill 382 and come up with some new ideas for different zoning districts and different densities. So working through all of those. Things that are coming up that we'll be working on the next batch is our administration chapters, a little bit more about landscape and buffers, and then the environmental standards. And then we'll also be working with Chandra and her team to incorporate the stormwater ordinance to make sure that those documents are aligned and we're not having any inconsistencies between them. Again, just some of the things we talked about, recreation, open space, bona fide farming, looked at real estate offices and model home standards, our accessory uses, and our temporary use standards. Here's a little bit more on Senate Bill 382. As of last week, 21 bills have been filed. It does restrict the limits for down zoning. Any changes to the existing district that would reduce or limit the potential uses could be considered a down zoning. So that's really what is challenging when we're looking to improve and better the permitted use table. And then it could also impact things such as if there's certain areas in the county where you want to limit short-term rentals, or if there's rezoning in flood-prone areas. So again, we'll be working through that and then, working with outside legal to figure out how to navigate this, as is everybody else in the state as well. Looking forward to meeting with all of y'all on Thursday. We have a series of small group discussion meetings set up at the Land Use Center with the commissioners. We'll be going through the information that we have already worked through with Braston, looking for your all's guidance input on things that are important to you, things that you want to see updated, changed, also just kind of picking your brain a little bit about some of the processes and procedures that you would like us to continue to focus on as we are kind of nearing the midpoint of this process. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Mr. Schwartzkopf? Ms. Schwartzkopf? I'm trying to say Schwartzkopf, and I can't say Mrs. Cindy, any questions for Cindy? Let's go with that.
I got some
say
questions,
Cindy.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner.
Cindy, the Senate Bill 382, typically, well, obviously, when someone proposes anything, they think it's a good idea. Why is that a good idea?
I am not sure.
Why is it a bad idea?
The challenge is it takes away the municipality's ability to really make changes to their zoning ordinance and their permitted uses. If we were looking at individual property owners only, not a bad idea. Anyone should be able to propose what they want to do on their property. The challenge is when we are looking at a municipality or a county level that is going through an ordinance update and trying to improve and refresh ordinances to make them more modernized, looking at ways, different development patterns, thinking about uses that might not be appropriate in a zoning district any longer, wanting to reduce those. We cannot do a blanket rezoning for that anymore unless we reached out to every property owner that was within that area and got their consent for it. I believe the impetus of it to help with nonconformities was good. I just think it kind of got away from what that initial purpose was, and there was probably, I would say, some unintended consequences of the overall bill.
There always are.
Yes.
I've heard Braston mention in the past the term of legal nonconforming, typically grandfathered. Is this what the downzoning would do? It can still be there, but if it ever gets destroyed or changes use, it can't be there. Okay. Thank you.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
On this chart, all the little blue triangles, what do they represent?
Well, that's a good question. Let me see here. I think it was just a map just to show the county truthfully. So I don't think there was really anything that is appropriate for, no triangles mean anything in this map,
Okay.
let's just say. It was just a county map to pull up.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, any other questions? All right, yeah, I was just going to add, Commissioner Stovall, anything from you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little confused by this Senate Bill 382 because I've talked to several people that were involved in it, and I got differing points of view that was not our intent to cause these problems. But then you turn right around, I've seen multiple articles come out in the Carolina Journal that says, yes, that was our intent all along. We're exercising control at the General Assembly and reducing control at the local level, which kind of goes contrary to the old principles of government in this country. Decisions are best made when the government is closest to the people. But to have the General Assembly come in and suggest that they're more qualified to make decisions about how the land in our community should be developed and how it affects our neighbors is a bit of an overreach there. I would hope that our legislative delegation will be encouraged to go ahead and push some kind of resolution through on their end, at least for Johnston County, but I think the rest of the state deserves similar relief.
All right, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I did want to add too, this is just a general comment, that it's my opinion that this is probably, we talk about a $700 million water plant, but this is probably going to have the biggest impact of anything we do for the future, for the current residents and future residents of Johnston County. So I'm pleased that our staff is engaged as they are, and I think I can make the promise that this board will probably be engaged at an equal or higher level, because this is going to be the biggest thing that we do for a long time. So,
What Commissioner Stovall said is true. The best government's those closest to the people, but we should never lose sight of the original of the people, for the people, by the people. And I'm hesitant. I don't know enough about 382 to properly comment, but when I think about the government doing something without permission of the of the landowners that bothers me.
All right, well, I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. If you have lists of questions and things, if not, we will go through the sections that we've worked on. And as always, if you have any questions or anything, please reach out to me through Bryson or just directly, and I'm happy. And I do agree that this is really an important effort, and I'm really pleased to be assisting you with it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. All right, Mr. Newton, you want to make the next introduction?
I do real quick. Do want to say in reference to Thursday small group meetings with this body, if you have any specific items you would like us to touch on as we're in those and discuss in detail, please get those to us as quickly as possible, and we'll be glad to prep for that. So now, as alluded to earlier, we do have one additional update for you. It's with regard to a major project, and this is our comprehensive transportation plan. So we are nearing the end of this project with a one final public engagement session that is to come, and then we will present a draft plan to this board for consideration. And here with us tonight, we have Will Letchworth, representing McAdams Company, which is our consultant, to assist us in this project. Just to give you some history, Johnston County's last CTP was adopted in 2014, I do believe. So it's been some time. We're well overdue. Now, there's been some progress made, quite a bit of progress made from that plan to now, but we're looking obviously well into the future with this plan, and we've enjoyed immensely working with McAdams on this project, and we look forward to having this draft to you in the very near future. So this time I ask for Mr. Will Letchworth to come forward.
Thank you, Preston. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Will Letchworth, Vice President of Transportation at McAdams and Project Manager for the Johnston County CTP, here to give you a very brief update on where we're at. I'll give you some update from last time I spoke to the board. I'll just remind you of the vision for the plan, which is connecting the residents of Johnston County through safe and efficient multimodal travel options. So there are three really important words there: safety, efficiency, and multimodal. To destinations within Johnston County. I think that's also a very important statement. It's important to reiterate that, but also in connecting to the region while enhancing economic vitality. So this has really been the vision that has driven this entire process, our analysis, the development of our recommendations. We've had a very robust public engagement outreach through this. Staff has been amazing to work with, done a great job getting the word out. To date, you can see that we've had over 1,200 participants. That is very good for a long-range transportation plan. Even one at a county-wide level, I think it's 240-some-thousand residents in the county. So from a percentage standpoint, you might look at that and say, oh, that's not a lot. It's hard to get people out for a long-range plan, particularly for a planning document. So I'm very pleased with what we've had to date. A lot of comments, a lot of responses. We've gotten some really good information and feedback, and we, as Preston mentioned, we'll be continuing that here shortly with our final round of public engagement and public meetings. Just take you through a few of the recommendations. I want to highlight a couple things that are a little bit out of the ordinary. Obviously, well, we'll start with the ordinary, if you will. Most people, when they think transportation, they think cars, and obviously we put quite a bit of effort into planning for cars and trucks. There's 81 total highway project recommendations in the CTP. A lot of those recommendations come from plans that are already on the books, whether it's plans from CAMPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organizations, plans from NCDOT, and then also building on plans from the municipalities. There's a few new ones in here. We did take the feedback from last commissioners meeting and make sure we paid special attention to the southeastern part of the county. You'll see some recommendations in Princeton and Pine Level, and then down southeast of Benson. So a little hard to see on this map, but we also will have a GIS-based map component to this plan. It's not just going to be a plan that's in a PDF format. You actually be able to go online and look at the recommendations, see what they are. And importantly, as things change in the county, as plans change, you can update those as well. So a lot easier to see it in that view, but wanted to highlight it here for you. We've also spent quite a bit of time focusing on what we call hot spots in the county. So we did a sweep of the county, looking through crash data that was available, looking at areas that were congested, areas around key things like schools, and found those areas that needed a little bit of extra attention other than just a fat line on a map, if you will, recommendation. So to dive down into where the turn lanes need to be, where the sidewalks need to be, where the bike lanes need to be. And I'll just highlight a couple of them here for you. Holtz Pond Road is a great example of that, providing better access from Princeton to the school. Curb and gutter, something a little bit different than what you normally see in a county, but curb and gutter, bike lanes, shared use path, just to get students back and forth from the school and provide some better connectivity to the town. Baker's Chapel Road, Stevens Chapel Road, another good example. Queuing concerns, one fatal accident, several other non-fatal accidents. Looking at some turn lane type improvements at those two intersections, particularly center left turn lane. 50 and Zacks Mill Road's a great example of just, like a lot of roads you see in the county, they may intersect at a little bit of a skew. Where are those things that we can clean up and make those intersections, particularly the ones that have fatal accidents, a good bit safer. Cleveland Road and Swift Creek Road is a great example of where a roundabout's a great solution for an intersection, get some roadway realignment. We're seeing a lot more four-way stops, of course, in the county. Four-way stops are a great measure, but sometimes you need to get past that, particularly from a capacity standpoint. And roundabouts are a great way to do that. So we're seeing more rural roundabouts, not only in Johnston County, but in North Carolina. This seems to be a great location for an additional rural roundabout that can help clean up sight lines, help clean up conflicts, significantly less conflict points in a roundabout than there is a standard intersection. We're not also, but as I mentioned, we're not just focused on cars. We're focused on transit as well. Transit from a big picture standpoint, there's really two important parts of transit in Johnston County. It's the within Johnston County, and then it's regionally. And both of those are very important and are addressed in the CTP. The within Johnston County is, there's options there from a fixed route standpoint. There's some really good options from a microtransit standpoint. Already doing microtransit in Smithfield, Selma. The expansion of microtransit makes a lot of sense for Johnston County, given a large rural area. Running fixed route service is tough to pull off in low-density rural areas, but microtransit makes a ton of sense. So we've got some recommendations relative to those. And then there's recommendations in the plan also relative to longer-term, more regional connections, taking advantage of BRT, for example, that's on the plan between Raleigh and Clayton, aligning with that Campo BRT plan. Commuter bus service from some of the urbanized areas of Johnston County to the surrounding Triangle region. There's a lot that's feasible, and there's a recognition of the need to connect regionally, but also, again, as I mentioned in the vision, carry people within the county. Passenger rail is also addressed in the CTP. It is addressed in Clayton CTP. We've also addressed it in the Johnston County CTP, working with Scott Saylor, who served as a consultant to the county, and town staff and our steering committee to identify a potential location for passenger rail between Powhatan Road and 70. This is really, in my opinion, a great potential for the county to have an intermediate stop between Selma and Raleigh. For example, I live in the northern part of the county. Selma is a little bit too far out of the way. By the time I get to Raleigh, I'm going to keep driving to Charlotte. But a stop in a location like this, closer to the bulk of the population in the county, and then can take long distance passenger rail service or potentially in the future commuter rail type service. Long ways away, but a good opportunity to identify a site for a stop now that serves a lot of the major employers in the area and can be a place that a lot of people in the county can drive to and utilize. Aviation is also addressed. Like I said, it is a comprehensive transportation plan, so we do have to address everything. Aviation, largely from an aviation standpoint, we're importing JNX's Airport Layout Master Plan into the CTP. So not a lot of new recommendations from an aviation standpoint, but we do want to make sure they're reflected in the CTP document and make sure particularly that the roadway recommendations that are in the Airport Layout Master Plan are accurately reflected in the CTP, and it's supportive of what they're trying to do at JNX. And then we've heard a lot about bike ped tonight. We have included a variety of plans that have recommendations for Johnston County and collated them into this document. Cleaned up a few things where there was some conflicts, one route or another, making sure that the roadway recommendations align with multi-use path recommendations when those are planned to be adjacent to the roadways. And then also, of course, currently ongoing is the Greenways and Trails Connectivity Plan that will then be joined with this plan. CTP will be done before that plan's done, but we'll make sure it's appended to this plan to, again, create a comprehensive document. So a lot happening from a bike ped standpoint, and as you heard earlier, a lot getting funded from a bike ped standpoint. So Johnston County is making a lot of strides in this department. And I feel like this CTP, particularly by bringing these together, is going to be, again, a much more comprehensive approach to travel, not just focused on vehicles, but in those appropriate locations, particularly when bicycle and pedestrian facilities can be included within the right-of-way, making sure that that's happening and that's recommended. So what are our next steps? We're targeting, we got a little bit messed up by the snow, so we had a public meeting scheduled. Glad we didn't have that. But we're targeting the end of the month, may leak up a little bit into April. We're trying to find available space to have our final public meeting. Then we'll be working on finalizing our draft plan and bringing that back to planning board and then to you for approval later in the spring, early summer. So that's where we're at. Happy to answer any questions that you got. I know I went through that pretty quick, but take any questions that you got.
Will, when we talk about specific projects in here that's been addressed in the plan, how does it translate to get on the grading list at Upper Coastal Plain or Campo?
So they will consider locally adopted plans when they're developing their, for example, Campo's Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And so, having it on the local plan is really the first step, to get it in that and then get it into the STIP as well, if that is the most appropriate way to fund that.
If it doesn't get there, is it, I'm just trying to think through the process.
Sure.
Can Campo or Upper Coastal Plain get it on their list? Us participating in that?
They can, in terms of getting on the STIP or getting it on the Campo's plan? Make sure I understand your question.
Both, either one.
Yeah. I think, getting it on Campo's plan is the logical next step for anything that's in the comprehensive transportation plan. The thing about comprehensive transportation plans is they're not fiscally constrained.
Right.
So we're not working toward a budget. When you start to move to the MTP, when you start to move to NCDOT STIP, that's when you move into the realm of fiscally constrained. So they don't all automatically port over into that plan. Yeah. There's some budgeting that happens. But that's okay. That's just part of moving through the process. One of the important things about having them on the CTP is it also gives you the opportunity to start to seek additional funding mechanisms, grants, for example. And then also, again, working with the rewrite of the UDO, the developer requirements that might come with implementing some of those recommendations.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments?
I just would like to say I like the idea of having a rail stop in Clayton. I think that would be very beneficial. Not just for Amtrak to be able just to stop in Clayton. I think would be really, really neat for inter-county, but then also regional. Going to Raleigh or going to Charlotte, but an alternate means of boarding.
Yeah, well, I wish Mr. Saylor was here to address some of that, but I believe that from Selma to Raleigh is the longest stretch without another stop in it of anywhere. I believe you said in North Carolina. So, yeah, I think some attention, and that seems far off. But Amtrak or the Raleigh, they run now from Charlotte to Raleigh. Selma's set up so they could take trains that are running between Charlotte and Raleigh, run them to Selma, and turn around and send them back. So a lot of work to do on that, but we need to have it in our plan. It is the first step in that, as to a lot of the projects, is get in our plan. And then when other projects move forward, we get to the next step and it's in there. It helps a lot.
Yes, sir. Right on.
Just for the public that's watching, will you say again what time the final public meeting is, March 31st, and where that will be?
We do not have that nailed down at this point.
Okay.
We've been targeting the 31st.
I think I can add a little bit of
Thank you.
Sorry, no.
So we did confirm this afternoon that we will be having that at the library here in Smithfield. It will be in the second floor meeting space, and it will be on the 31st. That will be from 4 to 6 p.m. We will begin making that public notification, so through a press release and social media release as well. But that is official today. We just had some difficulties in trying to schedule that, and initially we were going to have it at the if y'all remember, at JCAS facility over in Selma, but obviously the storm kind of had other plans, and we were glad to abide by their plan. So, and unfortunately, that facility is not as perfect segue, right? It works well, but unfortunately, that's not available at that time. So, we will be having that at the library here in Smithfield, 4 to 6 on 31st.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right.
So you had it figured out, just didn't even know it
Hey,
yet.
look,
Yeah.
thanks.
All
sir.
right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
And thanks to all staff and consultants who updated us tonight. I think it's, as I said, going into the strategic planning session next week, this is very helpful. I would like, if I get credit and blame for this, I'd like to take credit, which is not due. But it's nice to have these plans coming together at the same time, so we don't have one enacted and then the next one, and then we got to go back and forth. So I think that's fortunate that we're having them all come together, so that when we get started on it, it will be a full new set of plans that are consistent with each other going forward. So again, thanks to everyone for
You're
updating.
right, because they all are interconnected.
Yeah, they are. All right, next up we have manager report and comments. All right, that brings us to board reports and comments, and I'll start on this end with Mr. Commissioner Davis.
Okay. 2 weeks ago was Read Across America Week, and I was able to go and read some Dr. Seuss books to my elementary school I attended. So it was really neat being able to read to some fifth graders, but then also being able to ask questions about what the county commissioners do and talk about local government and what all that implies. And so it was really a great opportunity.
That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Commissioner Godwin.
A couple of things. Earlier, we had speakers to talk about that we need to have a funding mechanism in place for parks and recreation, that type of thing. And it smacks of that's what towns do. And my initial thought before Mr. Lee already said it was, why don't they incorporate? And he said there in Flowers probably would never be able to incorporate. But I would still say that's the way you get that kind of funding and that kind of percentage of your budget, because I can't see the county doing it. However, Mr. O'Neill has already pointed out $7 million. Can we count our grant writer as a funding mechanism? Mm-hmm. The other thing is, for a lot of years now, we've participated in the I-42 Corridor Commission. Started out as the US 70 Corridor Commission, really addressed the needs to enhance connectivity between here and Carteret County for the sake of eastern North Carolina's economic development. And we have quarterly meetings, and this month, Thursday at 1:30, at our new JCAS facility, we'll have those 5 counties represented here in their quarterly meetings. It's a public meeting. I encourage everybody who wants to show up.
All right.
That's the I-42 Highway 70 Corridor Commission.
Okay.
1:30.
All right, Commissioner Stevens.
Just wanted to mention the town of Benson is really excited to host the State of Us, which you will be speaking at, and so will Mr. Hester on Friday, March 28th from 11:30 to 1. That's also open to the public for anybody who wants to come. You can buy tickets through the Benson Chamber, but they're very excited to host the State of Us. There's several of y'all great speakers.
Learning to talk is a fun thing.
Jet lag is a real thing.
All right, Commissioner Rose.
All I have is I was recently asked to attend the groundbreaking ceremony back in Princeton, where we broke ground on a new community building and / library. And as a town commissioner, that was a big part of our push with the board, and it was good to see that go through. And it was honored to be a part of that now as part of this board.
All right, thank you. Vice Chairman Harris?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just one, I want to point out that the Johnston County Fire Commission is still working on the evolution of plans as we evolve the fire service in the county. And I just want to say how proud I am of that group because they have really come to the table. And this is a collaborative effort of all the fire chiefs and fire officials all throughout Johnston County. And they've all really come together and put together plans. So this board will be seeing some of those recommendations coming up in the next few months, and I'm really excited about that. And I will also remind you that this will be an evolutionary process, that when we adopt something now, it's likely going to evolve as years and time goes by. So this will be the first of probably several or many changes as the time goes on. But just really proud of the work that Fire Commission group has done, and the fire staff as well. So thank you.
All right. And Commissioner Stovall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to say I'd like to thank our PIO officer, Adam Carroll, for helping me get set up so I can even participate in this meeting tonight. And I'm looking forward to being able to rejoin y'all in person as soon as opportunity.
Sounds great.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we look forward to you joining us.
Yes.
All right. And really, and I've already mentioned, for me, the thing is our strategic planning retreat next Wednesday and Thursday, 26th and 27th, at the Workforce Development Center in Clayton. As they begin at 9 o'clock, they will be live streamed, so you're welcome to watch us for those 2 days there. I look forward to a lot of discussion. I know we're having the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners facilitate again this year. They have worked on a great agenda. We have a couple of speakers who are coming to begin with. And of course, we'll have Davenport there to give us our financial update, but a lot of good information that'll be shared, and an opportunity for us to work on the vision for Johnston County in its future. So with that, I believe we have a need for a closed session.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the board go into closed session for the purposes of consulting with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, and to establish or instruct staff concerning the negotiation of price and terms of a contract concerning the acquisition of real property pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of going into closed session for the reasons stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Bill.
You almost got there.
Yeah. I made it through almost made it through the whole thing without.
Almost.
All right, so after a short break to clear the boardroom, we will go into closed session, and I do not anticipate any action being taken after that.